I promise that this video will go out if we hit 100k subscribers, and we did it. Thank you guys so much for all the support over the years. This video is a part 2 to the complete game sense lesson that goes over every single game sense topic in Valorant. So make sure to watch part 1 first before you watch this one. And a quick disclaimer once again, this video is long. It doesn't have fancy animations or 4-second jump cuts like Mr. Beast videos to keep your goldfish brain entertained. This is strictly an educational video, but I can guarantee you that if you watch this whole video, you'll be able to find what is missing in your game sense. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kompeki, and I run Valorant's #1 live coaching program that helps players rank up 5 divisions in 6 weeks. Don't believe me? Mustard went from being hard stuck in gold 2 to plat 3 in just 4 weeks of the program. Another student, Scuba, went from being hard stuck in gold 3 to ascendant 1 in just 6 weeks. In the last 2.5 years of coaching thousands of players, I honestly can't even count at this point how many of them hit Immortal and some even Radiant. I'm not sharing this to boast or claim that I'm the best coach, but I share this to say that this lesson is a byproduct of coaching all my students in the last 2.5 years, and people paid money to learn this. This video is taken straight from our membership website that is only for students inside my coaching program. I'm giving this out to you guys in the hopes that it helps those of you guys who can't afford to pay for coaching. I'm a firm believer that what holds people back the most is not knowing what you don't know. For example, if you can't assess which person on your team should have first or second contact, you're not going to be able to make the right comms to your team. That's why my goal for you with this lesson is simple. First is to learn what game sense topics exist in the game so you're not missing anything. And the second is to give you the tools to implement what I'm teaching you. Unfortunately, because I'm not able to see your actual gameplay, I can't go through the third and last step with you, which is timely feedback. I'm not able to see whether you're implementing these concepts correctly or not. It'd be great if I could give feedback to everyone, but my time is limited and I can only offer personalized feedback to students inside my coaching program. Therefore, if you feel like you still can't give feedback to yourself even after watching through this entire video, I'm looking for only 10 more players who want to work with me and my team. So make sure to sign up and book a free call with me and my team to see if you'd be a good fit for coaching. So this is where stage 3 comes into play. So remember how we talked about there's stage 0 where you plan for the round. Stage 1 is where you get info or on the map. Stage 2 is where you actually execute on the info that you gathered. So it's kind of like the mid-round decision. And stage 3 is once the bomb goes down for both teams. Sometimes you never get to stage 3 because everyone's dead. But let's talk about micro positioning. So micro positioning is all about spacing around your teammates. So that's why I say like relative positioning as well. If you're too close to your teammates when you peek or when you're holding an angle, you're gonna get collided. If you're too far, you can't trade or pinch the enemy team. So an example of that was if Reyna, let's say, went out too early, then the Jet can't trade her, or vice versa. If Reyna is too far away, then you're not applying enough pressure and you're not actually pinching the enemy team. With angle isolation, it's using angle advantages and cover around the map to isolate fights. So that's what we went over actually in the first lesson, where I showed you guys how to clear B main, for instance, by slicing the pie, using cover around the map to be able to isolate each angle, and also crossfires. So understanding first and second contact when you guys are holding a choke point. If my teammates are holding A main from these 2 angles, okay, and we're holding A main right here, who should be the first contact here? Should it be Jet that's holding this, or should it be Reyna that's holding this? Jet?
I was gonna say Reyna, just because Reyna doesn't have to expose herself that much to the angle.
Who was the one that said Jet? I'm not trying to call you out, but I want to hear your reasoning too. Why you think it might be Jet?
Jet can jiggle for info, and then Reyna can swing, and then once Reyna goes to contact, Jet can swing after.
Okay, that's fair, but check this out. Jet, if she does jiggle for info, she's looking very deep into this angle here, right? So if an enemy's standing here, this Reyna has no opportunity to actually peek this angle, right? And swing off of this contact. It's impossible. But if Reyna is holding this line of sight, as soon as an enemy crosses this line, Jet can then peek off, and both of you guys have a clear vision over this choke, okay? So the person who can usually see deeper into the angle is going to be the second contact, okay? First contact is always a person that can't swing out as much. So let's use that same principle over on Fracture, or not Fracture, Pearl. So let's say you have a teammate playing Lamps and you're playing Art, okay? And enemies are coming out from this angle here. Who should have first contact? I'll just mark the positions here, and enemies are coming out from this angle here. So who has first contact?
The Jet.
Say the Reyna.
The Reyna or Jet?
Say the Jet.
the Jet. Okay, so remember how I said the person that's gonna get second contact is usually the one that can have a deeper angle. Okay, so right here where Reyna is standing, she has a deeper angle right here towards the guy pushing out backside compared to Jet where she's hugging the wall and she can't see, right? Or even if Jet does decide to kind of peek out to the left, she cannot see this little pocket here. She can only like see here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the Reyna actually sees this pocket earlier. So it's actually better if you guys wait for the Jet to make contact first, okay? So that the enemies are actually already out. They have to be out this way for them to even be able to see the Jet, right? So then if you swing, you'll definitely be able to shoot them in the back and get the trade. Like 100%. Like there's no way you don't get this kill. But if Jet peeks out first, there's a possibility where a guy standing here kills a Jet, or if like you kind of jiggle first and you die first to this guy and the Jet has to swing all the way out like this to be able to see this guy, right? It's not as safe, I'd say. Okay, so that's just like another example. And so in a lot of post-plant scenarios, it is very, very, very important for you to identify who has first contact or who has second contact, because that can really secure the round. And even if you're dead, just look at what positions your teammates are holding, see if they have a good crossfire or not, and tell them, hey, Jet, you're first contact. Hey, Jet, or hey, Reyna, swing off of your Jet's contact, just tuck in. You can make that calm, because sometimes while you're playing the game and there's a lot happening on your screen, you're not able to identify that. So help out your teammates by doing that for them. That's helped me secure a ton of rounds even when I'm dead. Okay, so that's the concept between first and second contact. So micro positioning is used for side control as well, like I showed you guys. If you have good relative positioning to your teammates, it allows your teammates to establish more map control. More side control means easier trades for your team, more angles to clear for the enemy team, which means it's difficult for them to clear the angles, and also means it'll take them longer to clear those angles, and therefore apply a lot more pressure on the clock for the bomb to tick down. Okay, when it comes to controlling the site, they're very similar concepts between holding positions, like when you're defending the site or the bomb, and pushing positions, so when you're attacking the site and retaking the site. Because think about it, when you're defending the site or the bomb, you're preventing people from coming into a choke, right? Coming onto the site, for instance. And when you're pushing out on a site, so whether you are trying to plant the bomb or whether you are retaking the bomb, the positioning concepts for each of those are very similar, okay? Like it kind of flips. So when you're defending, before the bomb goes down, you're just holding the site, right? But once the bomb gets planted, now you're attacking the site to defuse it. So that's what's kind of fun and interesting about Valorant, the way you see it. And the main theme is to cover each other's back while exposing yourself to the least amount of angles as possible. So let's go through both holding scenarios and pushing scenarios. When you're defending, you should always have a teammate who can rotate quickly to help you hold the same choke, or a plan to fall back if there isn't. And when you're defending the spike, spread out through the site as much as possible for crossfires and hold every choke possible, and be ready to trade your team instantly. So it's pretty similar, right? When you're pushing onto the site, when you're attacking, spread out throughout the site evenly, like I showed you guys, to pinch the site and cover as many angles as possible. And if you go too fast, so let's say you're a Jet or a Neon or a Yoru, if you go too fast and you have poor relative spacing for your teammates, they can't trade you out, okay? So that's bad. And when you're trying to defuse the spike during retakes, try to come in from as many chokes as possible, just like how you would maybe attack on a split push, to clear as much space as possible in the shortest amount of time. That's the most effective way to do it. So key takeaways: pay very close attention to how far away you are from your teammate and whether you are close enough to peek with your teammates to get the trade. And this is why we're going to talk about communication in the next lesson, but that's why it's super important to set up good positions around the site. Utility will also make it a lot easier for you to isolate these fights when you are, let's say pushing out onto a site, or even when you're defending, right? To eliminate sight lines that attackers can come through and you're isolating those gunfights. Yeah, okay, so let me just go through some examples for this. So let's first go through holding scenarios. So let's say that on the defending side, we throw this dart, like Reyna pushes out, Cypher doesn't really need to be here, but now you'll get a lot more value if Cypher plays here to cover mid and play off of this trip. And because it's cleared, Sova can just rotate here, right? If, let's say that you guys don't have that setup, you have maybe like one person market, one person playing stairs, like one person watching bottom mid through top mid like this. You have one person cat, one person main. If one person dies here, it leaves this whole gap, right? Then the fastest way to cover this hole is actually making the mid player rotate over and allowing one person to shift over. So think of it like a chain that you're making that you don't want to break. So if there's like one person here, I don't know, one person here, one person here, one person here, one person here. If this guy dies, this guy needs to rotate over and this guy needs to go market to cover mid, okay? So it's like a chain that you want to make that continues to shift over. On Lotus, for instance, let's say you're defending. You guys get a main control. You guys start off as 3, 1, 1. You guys have one person here. After getting control, 2 of you guys rotate off, right? And what can happen is as this guy's rotating, this B player, it'll be faster for this B player to rotate over towards C and allowing these 2 guys to go to B. Makes sense, right? You're just shifting one person over. It wouldn't make sense for this B player to stay here if 2 of these guys are gonna rotate towards B anyways. You're just shifting people over one by one, okay? And then yeah, if this guy makes contact here, people can just rotate back in the same direction. So shift one person over, and if one person shifts over, then it gets pushed onto the other side again. I know this looks really messy. So maybe it'll be a little more clear if I show you. So let's say you guys get control over this A main space. So if you guys don't spot anyone here, Raze gets control. As this Omen shifts over towards B, this Jet can just early rotate towards C, and this Breach can also early rotate towards B through Link or through Heaven like this. And if Raze makes contact here and she falls back with their satchels, they can come back, this guy can come back, this guy can come back at the same time. So it's just, if you push one over, push the other guy over as well. If there's a gap that needs to be filled, always you're just covering for each other. When you're defending on a site, once you plant the bomb, you always want to try and maximize the amount of angles to hold the bomb from as an attacker. So you can plant out here or here, but the best plant spot is actually here, generally. Unless you have like, I don't know, an Omen still alive and you play a one-way here. But you can just plant right here because then it's exposed to Garage, it's exposed to Cubby, and all of Long, and even a wrap through CT. So this is the most open plant, right? And based on that, you guys can have multiple crossfires. If you have a person backside, someone playing on top of this box on default, you can have someone playing logs, you can have people playing post plant on long, or even like late garage. So you need to understand who's first contact here. Well, clearly if this guy's standing out in the open, he has to be first contact, because if this guy peeks first and dies, this logs guy has no chance to trade him out, right? So this guy playing on top of the box is probably going to be playing second contact off of this first contact. And so if people are coming out, they see him first, this guy swings out and boom, gets the kill. If someone's playing default as well after they plant the bomb and they're holding garage, okay, that's fine as well. Like these guys can play together to hold garage as well. But here, this guy wouldn't peek first into CT because there's a guy playing backside here. So instead, you let this backside guy make contact as enemies are coming out, and as soon as they start shooting at this guy, you swing out from default and shoot them in the back. So it happens all so fast, and that's why all these webs that you're creating with these post plant positions, you need to start recognizing patterns around it and knowing the order of operation literally on how to peek. So on A site, for instance, you'll probably have someone playing graffiti. You'll probably have some people playing hell. You have people playing default. It's copy right here. Short, maybe even long, okay? So based on that, who's gonna make first contact? If this hell guy peeks out first, graffiti cannot trade, right? Because he has to swing out this way. So this hell player should actually tuck in and wait until they come out to clear this guy first, and then they peek out of hell, okay? And when that happens, if you guys have a player graffiti in hell, why would you even peek by yourself when you're tucked into this cubby and fight this angle? Or why would you even peek out from default and peek this guy when they're not even out yet and you have teammates holding this cross? There's no point, right? So you need to understand relative positioning. You need to know, is this a good time to peek or not? Because if you peek at the wrong time and you give them a free 1v1, there's a really good chance that your teammates might also throw the round and lose, okay? That's for defending the spike. And so now let's go through pushing scenarios when you're attacking. When you are attacking on A, for instance, you generally never want to go just all long, because if you leave the space open, then you have so many angles to worry about to clear. You have all this space here that you need to clear just coming out of this single choke point. So always, you generally want to spread out to clear as many possible angles so that you can clear all these angles together. Because I've done this too, where if they all go long, if I'm playing Reyna, for instance, I'll just push down short and just wrap all the way around long and just shoot him in the back. And they'll think, what the heck? How did they flank so fast? Okay, that's another thing to worry about. Even on C site, as Jet, I'll probably either dash here or dash default or dash on top of the box, okay? And afterwards, I'm either going to route right side, or if I'm going to route left side, I'm going to throw a smoke down to isolate this fight, clear back site, and then pinch again with my teammate, or even coming out of garage. So that's about pushing scenarios on attacking. And again, when you're defending and you're trying to retake to defuse a spike, A side's really hard to retake, honestly. But yeah, as long as you can drop down at the same time that your teammates are coming out CT, that's the best time to drop. I hate it when people just jump down by themselves while your teammates are still like stuck in this corner, like afraid to get out. Okay, now, that's really, really bad. And again, if you can manage to apply pressure flank and you threaten going long or short, it does make it a lot harder for defenders as well, or attackers who are defending the spike. It'll make it difficult for them as well to know which crossfires that they should prioritize holding first. So that is micro positioning in a nutshell. I have one last slide for you guys. And so overall, these are questions that you should be asking yourself when you're VOD reviewing yourself, when you are just playing the game in general, and you're really focused on having a growth mindset around your positioning. So ask yourself, was I in a spot where I'm able to safely gather information and still get out if I need to? Was it worth it for me to push up to gain information versus using my utility? Because that's another thing. Using your body to push up and gain info versus just using utility. How much map control did my team have during that round? And what could I have done differently to establish more control safely? That's also something to ask yourself. When it comes to bomb site control, even micro positioning, ask yourself. Even between rounds, during stage 0, ask yourself, did my team cover all parts of the site smoothly together as we were entering the site? Did we cover the most amount of angles that we can as we were defending, retaking, attacking, or holding a site based on our position? Were we setting up good crossfire positions when holding a choke position? And relative positioning, was I in a good position to trade out my teammate? Was I too far away or too close to my teammate? What angles are my teammates and I exposed to? Such as, man, like, are we all holding the same angle and our backs are exposed? That happens a lot too, right? Did I overextend myself where my teammates couldn't help me? So did I push out too far or too fast? Should I have known that the enemy could have been coming from that direction? These are all little things to ask yourself as you're playing the game. Okay, there's a lot, but each scenario where you feel like you died, you kind of lost control of the round, these are some questions you can ask around that. Okay, for the sake of the recording, I'll end it here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in.